Welcome to the channel True Crime Stories, everyone. Today, we delve into another grim case, the forbidden fruit of human nature and crime. What drives people to commit heinous acts? Human nature is intricate and multi-layered, with every action rooted in some rationale. In this discussion, we will steer clear of analyzing individuals with mental health issues and their proclivity for violence, as well as military personnel whose roles necessitate eliminating enemies. Instead, we will focus on the primary motives behind life-threatening acts, such as material gain, revenge, exceeding the boundaries of self-defense, and accidental incidents. Most crimes occur domestically, often erupting during conflicts and disputes in environments that otherwise seem stable. However, these violent acts are not the root cause, but rather a symptom of a deeper degradation of the human spirit, leaving indelible scars. On the morning of January 12, 2019, the death of 65-year-old Michael Redlick was reported. Known as a former NBA executive with the Memphis Grizzlies and a beloved professor at the University of Central Florida, his demise was initially attributed to a heart attack. However, upon the arrival of emergency services, it was discovered that Michael had died from a stab wound to the chest. Various theories were explored, including the possibility of self-inflicted harm. Ultimately, forensic experts determined it was a case of homicide. The investigation soon identified the perpetrator, Michael's wife, Danielle Redlick. By June 2022, she faced trial, but the narrative was far from straightforward. Danielle did not confess to the crime and frequently altered her testimony, leading to a protracted and heated legal battle between the prosecution and defense. The court's verdict ultimately shocked everyone. What truly transpired in the Winter Park suburb of Florida, USA? Who is the real victim, and could this tragedy have been prevented? Let's delve into the details. Sitting in the defendant's chair was 46-year-old Danielle Redlick, a woman of short stature and slim build, with chestnut hair that had turned gray, possibly due to the stress and turmoil of spending 3 years in custody. Until 2019, she led an ordinary life as a working American woman, a mother of 2, and a specialist in multimedia communications. Her life, however, was thrust into the spotlight following the murder of her husband. Danielle was born in 1976 in Florida, and later her family moved to Cleveland, Ohio. Her childhood was largely typical. She was kind, well-mannered, and creatively inclined. The eldest of her siblings, Danielle's appreciation for beauty grew as she matured. She attended Valencia College, earning an Associate of Arts degree, and later enrolled in the psychology department at Baldwin Wallace University. In 1996, Danielle's mother, Caitlin Aquino, remarried, though the marriage was short-lived. Then Kathleen passed away from breast cancer 2 years later, despite receiving high-quality medical care through her husband's comprehensive insurance. Following Kathleen's death, her husband, Michael Redlick, became a widower and took on the responsibility of raising her children. Struggling with this burden alone, he sought help from Kathleen's eldest daughter, Danielle. At that time, 22-year-old Danielle was living independently but responded to Michael's request. Thus, after Kathleen's death, Danielle, her brother, sister, and stepfather, Michael Redlick, found themselves living under one roof. Yes, you heard correctly, the same Michael who later became Danielle's husband and whose life was tragically ended on that fateful winter evening in 2019. Initially, their relationship was based on friendship. Danielle took care of her younger siblings and worked part-time at a bar to support herself. Meanwhile, Michael was climbing the ranks in professional sports, particularly in player recruitment. He grew very attached to the children, who became like his own. Michael developed a deep connection with Danielle over time. Despite their 20-year age difference, their bond was strong and natural. Eventually, Danielle saw Michael as a reliable support. The age gap and difference in social status didn't hinder their growing closeness. However, Danielle initially kept their relationship a secret from her family. With Michael, she felt loved and protected, while he felt rejuvenated and energetic. Leveraging his connections, Michael secured Danielle a job at an advertising agency. He had a substantial income and dedicated his free time to his family, making life seem prosperous for them both. Soon, Michael was offered a prestigious position as Vice President of Corporate Sales for the Memphis Grizzlies basketball team, a role that required relocating. Though he was eager for Danielle to join him, she was initially hesitant. Danielle was still studying and did not want to disrupt her familiar life. Nevertheless, their relationship endured the long distance, with Michael frequently visiting her. One day, he impressed her by showing her a house he had bought for them by the picturesque Mississippi River. Ultimately, Danielle decided to move and live with Michael, encouraged further by the interesting job he found for her in the radio industry. Initially, everything seemed perfect. Years later, during Danielle's trial, her 15-year-old daughter Jaden testified about her father. She described Michael as a devoted father who encouraged her and her 8-year-old brother Sawyer in their sports endeavors thanks to his professional connections. Jaden had a close bond with her father, but her relationship with her mother was strained. She viewed Danielle as hysterical, manipulative, and toxic, believing that Danielle instigated most of the household conflicts while Michael tried to maintain peace. But was Jaden's perspective accurate? And what truly caused the discord in what seemed to be a united family? Michael's new role brought increased stress and tension. He struggled with management issues, and this pressure took its toll, leading him to turn to alcohol. His drinking became a nightly routine, and he often came home late, intoxicated, and irritable. The household tension grew palpable. Danielle tried to support him, understanding his struggles. Although he promised to stop drinking after their talks, his promises were fleeting. One evening, Michael missed a dinner they had planned together. Danielle was upset, expressing her disappointment and making an ill-timed joke. Michael, in a fit of anger, struck her across the face, causing her to stagger and notice her clothes and the floor were splattered with blood. Shocked, she recoiled as Michael, distressed, cried and apologized. He took her to a familiar sports doctor who provided first aid and recommended seeing a dentist and a plastic surgeon due to the severity of her injuries, which included a chipped front tooth. The next day, Michael tried to make amends with a memorable dinner, and Danielle, feeling sympathy for him, forgave him and did not report the incident, despite strict domestic violence laws. This was not the first warning sign. In Cleveland, Michael had previously exhibited violent behavior when he became jealous after Danielle spoke with an ex-boyfriend at a concert. On their way home, his sarcastic comments led to an argument, and he hit her, but immediately apologized, claiming he acted out of hurt feelings. Danielle forgave him, blaming herself, and the incident faded from memory. In 2003, the Redlicks welcomed their daughter Jaden, and a year later, they legally formalized their relationship. This period seemed bright and promising, but Michael continued to face professional challenges. 7 years later, their son Sawyer was born. Despite their dedication to parenting, Michael's job pressures led him to drink more frequently, causing more conflicts. During one argument, he grabbed Danielle by the throat and pinned her against the wall. Terrified, Danielle took the children and moved in with relatives who had initially disapproved of the marriage but had since accepted it. Michael repeatedly visited, apologized, and pleaded for her to return, eventually convincing her to come back home. The following years were tumultuous. The family moved several times due to Michael's job changes. A period in California was particularly challenging, with both spouses unemployed and living off savings. In 2014, they faced another move, this time to Indiana, with promising prospects. Michael went ahead to find a new home, while Danielle stayed in California with the children. The constant moving had become exhausting for Danielle and the children as they struggled to adapt to the rapidly changing environments. The entire process of selling their old property and relocating took about a year. During this time, the family's financial situation improved, but their marital relationship deteriorated. The distance and infrequent communication strained their bond, making it challenging for Danielle and Michael to reconnect. When they finally reunited, new issues emerged. Danielle began to suspect Michael of infidelity due to his cold and distant behavior. Confronted, Michael confessed that his age and health were the reasons behind his detachment. Embarrassed to discuss his struggles earlier, he feared losing his younger wife. Danielle, grateful for his honesty, supported him through this period. They explored various medications, eventually opting for hormone therapy. Testosterone injections revitalized Michael physically and mentally, but they also increased his aggressiveness. One evening, while watching a movie, Michael fell asleep, and Danielle went upstairs to rest. The next morning, he entered the bathroom where she was brushing her teeth and struck her on the head, accusing her of not waking him up the previous evening. When she expressed her frustration and intent to leave, he reacted violently, choking her until she nearly lost consciousness. Later, Michael, scared and confused, begged for forgiveness, but the incident had irreversibly damaged their relationship. Despite this, they continued living together for the sake of their children. However, the violence and tension in their home increased. Michael's drinking became more frequent, and conflicts erupted over trivial matters. Danielle, despite her resentment, continued to love him deeply. The ongoing situation took a toll on her mental health, leading her to become withdrawn and develop a dependency on alcohol. In late 2014, the Redlick family finally settled in Florida. Michael decided to change his career, taking a less stressful position as Director of External Affairs and Partnership Programs at the University of Central Florida, where he also began teaching. Although the job paid less than his previous role, it brought stability and satisfaction. They rented a home initially, but after a year, they bought a Mediterranean-style house in the quaint area of Winter Park. Danielle often retreated to the attic floor, her sanctuary from the escalating household tensions. Michael's rejuvenation from the hormone injections also reignited their intimate life, but his harsh behavior persisted even during these moments. Danielle's alcohol dependency worsened, and the numerous disputes led to their separation in 2016. Despite living apart, Michael continued to support the children financially, while Danielle found a job at a school, which helped her regain some independence and pull out of her depression. Even though they were separated, Michael often visited, and they maintained a complicated relationship. During one such visit, another argument led to Danielle ending up in the hospital with a concussion. She remained silent about the incident, fearing it would cause problems for Michael. In early October 2016, Michael's aggression escalated further when he tried to run Danielle over with his car. She narrowly escaped by jumping into the bushes. Though she went to the police, she decided not to pursue the matter, fearing the repercussions for her husband. Eventually, the couple reconciled and moved back in together, a decision that would prove fateful. On the morning of January 12, 2019, Danielle made a 911 call, reporting that her husband had died from a heart attack. However, the scene that greeted emergency services told a different story. The strong smell of cleaning agents and a bucket filled with pink-colored water suggested attempts to clean up. Michael was found lying in a pool of blood with a fatal knife wound, not a heart attack as Danielle had claimed. Danielle herself had cuts on her wrists, and after receiving first aid, she was taken to the hospital. The police investigation quickly determined that Michael had been murdered. Forensic analysis confirmed that the blood traces belonged to Michael and that the pink liquid was diluted blood, indicating an attempt to clean up evidence. Despite these efforts, blood spatter in the corners of the room and on the walls revealed the violent nature of the incident. Furthermore, a large knife was found at the entrance to the kitchen, and 3 smaller knives were located in the sink. Detectives were eager to speak with Danielle. Once doctors confirmed that her injuries were not life-threatening, she was questioned. During the interview, she repeatedly changed her statements. Initially, she claimed to have thought her husband died of a heart attack. Later, she stated that he had taken his own life following an argument. However, experts refuted her claims, noting that such a wound is difficult to self-inflict, and individuals intending to end their life usually choose simpler and less painful methods. The autopsy revealed that Michael died from blood loss, and with timely medical help, his life could have been saved. Additionally, he had a lacerated left eye, and toxicological tests showed a high level of alcohol in his system. The investigation uncovered that a few days before the incident, the couple had a heated argument witnessed by their elder daughter, Jaden. Michael, heavily intoxicated, burst into the bathroom where Danielle was hiding. Jaden intervened, taking the bottle away from him. Danielle then left the house and returned once Michael had fallen asleep. According to Jaden, this was the first time she had seen such anger in her father, though he later apologized multiple times. Despite his temper, she maintained that he was a loving and caring father, while asserting that her mother was often the instigator of conflicts. The next day, the couple reconciled, and Michael invited his wife and children to a soccer game. Witnesses noted that Danielle appeared upset and was virtually non-communicative during the event. That evening, they dropped their kids off at a friend's house for a sleepover, leaving them alone at home. Later, Danielle stopped by McDonald's and returned home around 10:30 p.m. Upon entering the house, she found Michael drunk. During dinner, Danielle received a message from an unknown man, which enraged Michael. He bit off a piece of his hamburger and spat it at her before attacking her, attempting to strangle her. In self-defense, Danielle grabbed a knife and stabbed him in the chest. Michael fell and began to bleed profusely. According to Danielle, she immediately tried to call emergency services, but mistakenly dialed the wrong number. This was later corroborated during the investigation. In a state of shock, she lay down next to Michael and fell asleep until morning. This explanation accounted for the 11 hours of inactivity. When questioned by the prosecution about her inconsistent statements, Danielle explained that she feared no one would believe she acted in self-defense. This fear was rooted in a previous altercation with friends, during which she resisted the police, resulting in charges of disorderly conduct and resisting arrest. Danielle was on probation at the time of Michael's death. Investigators found that the cuts on Danielle's wrists were self-inflicted, but superficial and not life-threatening, suggesting that her claims of attempting to end her life were dubious. Additionally, Danielle was discovered to have signed up on a dating site after learning of Michael's infidelities, where she interacted with other men, retaliating by being unfaithful herself. Her profile status declared that she was single and not in a relationship. Analysis of messages between Michael and Danielle showed that she still loved her husband, but felt betrayed and disillusioned upon learning of his affairs and his plans to leave her. Despite appearing repentant and desiring to mend their relationship, Michael's actions left Danielle heartbroken. The prosecution argued that the crime was premeditated, committed in a fit of rage, because she could not forgive his infidelity and the impending divorce. The neighbors noted that the couple often argued loudly, escalating into physical altercations. Character testimonies painted contrasting pictures of the couple. Michael was described positively as kind and helpful, while Danielle was seen as quarrelsome. Video evidence showed Danielle acting irrationally and attacking her husband, which was corroborated by friends and Michael's brother. The trial was a spectacle, revealing the dark and tumultuous nature of the Redlicks' relationship. The trial of Danielle Redlick was a gripping courtroom drama that captured national attention, featuring a complex narrative of abuse, infidelity, and self-defense. Michael Redlick, a former NBA executive and professor, met a tragic end on January 12, 2019, found with a fatal stab wound in his Winter Park, Florida home. The case was shrouded in conflicting testimonies and dramatic turns that culminated in a highly controversial verdict. Danielle Redlick's portrayal was dichotomous. While the prosecution painted her as a resentful and calculating woman, her defense argued that she was a victim of prolonged emotional and physical abuse. One witness recalled calling her crazy, but reassured that all would be well as long as steak knives were hidden, highlighting the turbulent dynamics within the Redlick household. Danielle's lawyer contended that her actions on that fateful night were driven by self-defense against an abusive husband. Relatives who often witnessed their heated arguments supported this view, confirming that Michael was rough and emotionally abusive, although he never physically abused her in their presence. Despite this, the prosecution emphasized that Danielle's behavior following the stabbing suggested premeditation rather than a desperate act of self-preservation. They pointed to her logging into a dating app the night of the incident, implying she was already seeking new relationships and possibly motivated by financial gain. They argued that Michael's impending decision to leave her would have resulted in a significant loss of wealth, as her net worth at the time of his death was estimated at $1.2 million. Furthermore, Danielle's changing statements and the apparent attempt to clean the crime scene were presented as efforts to confuse the investigation and tamper with evidence. The defense countered by depicting Michael as a manipulative predator who pursued his stepdaughter relentlessly after his first wife's death, molding her to suit his needs. Danielle's reaction to the abuse, they argued, was not premeditated murder, but an instinctual act of self-defense during a life-threatening situation. Her refusal to accept a plea deal for manslaughter, which would have resulted in a 10-year sentence, underscored her insistence on her innocence, despite facing the possibility of a life sentence if found guilty of first or second-degree murder. The trial's outcome was indeed surprising. On July 17, 2022, the jury found Danielle Redlick not guilty of premeditated murder, concluding that her actions were in self-defense. However, she was found guilty of tampering with evidence, for which she received a 5-year suspended sentence. Having already served 3 years, these were credited to her, and she was released on August 5, 2022. In reflecting on this case, it becomes clear that justice is not always black and white. The Danielle Redlick trial teaches us about the hidden struggles within seemingly ordinary lives and the dire consequences of unchecked domestic abuse. It calls on society to look deeper into the signs of abuse and to provide better support systems for those trapped in such harmful environments. The verdict, while legally justified, leaves a bitter taste. Was justice truly served? Can we say with confidence that the system worked, or did it falter in the face of complexity? Danielle's release raises critical questions about how we balance the scales of justice, particularly in cases involving intimate partner violence. The lesson here is profound. We must strive to understand the multifaceted nature of abuse, ensure rigorous legal scrutiny, and above all, provide compassionate support to those who suffer in silence. The Danielle Redlick case is a stark reminder that our legal system must continually evolve to address the nuances of human behavior and relationships. It is a call to action for more robust protections for victims of abuse and a deeper societal commitment to preventing such tragedies. Let this case be a catalyst for change so that no one else has to endure what Danielle and Michael Redlick experienced. Justice must be not only served, but also seen to be served. in a manner that honors the complexities of the human condition and the sanctity of life. Please share your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Don't miss out on the pulse-pounding updates from true crime stories. Hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and ring the notification bell. Stay tuned for the latest in dramatic and thrilling crime narratives that will keep you at the edge of your seat.